Yeah.
Because it has been illegal for even to research cannabis, right?
Yeah.
I know a few universities may get a pass just so they can do some mild, research, but it really hasn't been dug into.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm very passionate about this industry, and I'm really giving it all, especially trying to be a industry leader in this field, and just kind of showing people what I've gone through already. I love to teach, so I'm always here to help others, especially wanting to get into the industry, whether if it's growing or learning about the product. And I think the education is the real big part of educating others about cannabis and hemp, and it's how it's had this bad stigma. And even marijuana back in the 1920s was a negative term for Hispanics. And having this social equity is a huge part for us.
Are you looking to buy or sell your home but not quite sure if now is the right time? Well, contact Morgan & Co. and allow them to help you make that decision. Morgan & Co. is a leading top producing company in Central Virginia. Contact Morgan & Co. today at 804-874-6806 or anytime, day or night, at www.morganandcorealty.com. Now back to the episode. Welcome to the Success Leaves Clues podcast, where I find regular people doing phenomenal things in corporate America and entrepreneurship. And of course, I'm your host, Dr. K. I have with me today Anthony Mijares. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I feel really humbled to come on the show.
Appreciate it. Thanks for your time. You are the owner of multiple businesses. Yeah. The two I'm most familiar with is Signscapes and Old Manchester Hemp Company. So tell me a little bit about your hemp business first, because it's different to me.
So we started the company, it's been almost 2 years. It was, let me kind of back that up. So I'm a veteran.
Oh, thank you for your service.
Thank you. And you're a veteran as well.
I am.
Yeah. So appreciate you for your service as well. And, we both share this commonality of the VA hospital and coming out of the military and going through PTSD and all these other problems that we have coming out of the military. And as a vet, they kind of see you as a person that they can just throw pills at, right?
Yeah.
So every symptom you have, every problem you have, there's a pill for it. And then you have side effects from these pills, right? So we all have these commonalities as veterans. And what I saw for myself is that I was not myself.
Yeah.
We then become anxious. We become depressed. There was points in my life where I felt suicidal. It was a really dark time for myself coming out of the military. And an Army buddy recommended that CBD to me.
Okay.
This was about 5-6 years ago. It's not where it is right now as far as CBD. But I started on a tincture, and I started a daily regimen. At night, I would put it underneath my tongue, a couple drops, just kind of seeing where it took me. And, I started to feel a little bit better. I could get full night's sleep. Us veterans, we just don't sleep.
Yeah.
We have so much going on in our mind, good and bad. It was hard for me to sleep, and even taking the medications, you feel groggy the next day. Like I said, you just don't feel yourself. So after taking this CBD tincture for about a month and a half, and then also going to see my psychiatrist and psychologist, I kind of winged myself off of these medications against my doctor's, will and need, because no, you can't do that. You can't just stop taking it. Yeah. So I soon started feeling a whole lot better and winged myself off all these medications that they gave me. So I continued that path with CBD, and was until a couple of years ago, I really wanted to do more research. I kind of saw where Virginia was going with the cannabis a few years ago, and they were starting to making it medical, and then kind of going down the path of decrim. So I kind of saw that path and was forecasting, this is the industry I want to be in. I don't know how I want to be in there, but I want to be in there. I want to tell my story.
Okay.
And so, the easiest path for me to do that was to get into the hemp industry. I learned about how I could get a license through the Department of Agriculture, applied for the license, found me a facility, and I don't know anything about growing. I really didn't know too much about cannabis.
Well, I don't know a whole lot either. You mentioned a few terms that I'm not too familiar with.
Right.
So I've heard of CBD, but you mentioned CBD, and then you mentioned tincture.
Yep. So tincture is just basically a liquid form of CBD.
Okay.
So they basically process the plant down from the flower, the stems, the leaves, and they make it into a distillate, which is kind of almost a gelatinous, hard, sticky form.
Okay.
And then they add either some sort of ethanol or either a food grade alcohol into it to kind of process it down a little bit further, so we can take orally. And then they can make into edibles and vape carts and all this other stuff.
And there's a stronger benefit or more potency by taking it as a tincture, or?
Yes, rather than smoking. Okay. So the terms, cannabis is kind of the top term that covers CBD and marijuana. Marijuana is the smokable, where you can get high. You can, eat the edibles. That's where you get high.
Yeah.
The marijuana. CBD is the hemp form of cannabis. And you don't get high. It gives you all the medicinal benefits like cannabis does or marijuana does. It's just that you don't get high. You have some mental alteration. You'll feel a little groggy. You'll just feel a little bit more relaxed, but you won't feel high.
Okay.
But I kind of saw where all this is going. I applied for all the licenses, and I found some good growers that were not from the state of Virginia, and they came and joined the team, and we kind of figured out a plan, and we just started growing.
Well, that was probably key, right? Because Virginia, with it being so new, and like you said, the industry was just changing here, or just evolving.
Yep. So
maybe finding growers that were maybe closer to the West Coast that may have that experience.
Yeah.
So did you have to bring them out here, or did they come here and train your staff? Or
it was by chance that I found them out here. They just moved out here from Maine, and his name's Cody Anderson. He's a part of Normal. He's our master grower. He trains a lot of people on growing.
Yeah, I've done a lot with Normal.
So Cody Anderson's a part of them, and it was just by chance that we met, and it really was. We met through a mutual friend, and he joined the team. And by him joining the team, it definitely helped me gain a path of what I wanted to do exactly in this industry. So we've been growing for over a year and a half. What we specialize is in growing exotic hemp, smokeable flower.
Exotic hemp.
Yep. So it pretty much looks like some of the best cannabis that you'll find on the market. Looks exactly, smells exactly.
Does it still bud and flower even though it's hemp? Okay.
Everything the same. Right. Everything the same. The only difference is the amount of THC that's in there in the plant. So by law, we can only have up to 0.3% THC in the plant. Anything over that is considered marijuana, which would be illegal federally. So we grow. That's what we wanted to specialize in. Nobody was really in that market of growing that type of hemp and CBD, having good smokable flower. Everybody's kind of more concentrated into the tinctures, the edibles, the lotions, soaps, all that kind of stuff. We wanted to focus more on a dispensary feel and finding the best of the best as far as flower and smokable hemp.
All right. What was the process like getting through licensure? I know both of us coming from the government world, the red tape and the regulations can be a headache. What was it? Was it the better experience with this one? Or?
It wasn't too bad because there wasn't a lot of people applying for the license at that time. It was a very new program that they just put out. They wanted to kind of test this program out to kind of lead into the cannabis and just kind of see what growers were able to grow. And it was a test pilot program. That's what it basically was through the Department of Agriculture. And you could apply for the license, which wasn't a difficult process. It was just a couple forms you had to fill out and, just turn it in and pay your fee for the license. And that was pretty much about it.
Okay. So they made it pretty seamless.
Yeah. It's a little bit difficult now because now that everybody is wanting to go for a cannabis license, they're wanting to grow. So there is a backlog of people trying to apply for the license right now.
Yeah. What medium are you growing in? Do you have farm land, or I saw some videos with you, in a warehouse or a room. Yeah. So is it all indoor grow?
It's all indoor grow. We do a little. It's called a hydrosoil, so it's a bit of just hydroponics and soil.
Okay.
So we have a mixture of both. That's what we felt was best for our environment. One thing about Virginia is that it's one of the worst states to grow in outdoors. The reason is because we have a lot of rainfall. We have hurricanes sometimes.
Yeah.
The temperatures are fluctuating tremendously.
Yeah.
So that leads into a lot of issues with your plant finding mold, pests like mites and caterpillars and all that stuff. Like it just kind of kills your plant. So, growing outdoors is very difficult if you're trying to grow marijuana or cannabis. Now, if you're trying to grow industrial hemp, for processing of tinctures or either, clothing or any type of textile, yeah, sure, Virginia, you can grow in. And actually, I'm gonna give you a little bit of a history lesson. So Virginia was one of the very first states to grow hemp.
Really?
And it was by law that you had to grow hemp on your farmland.
Okay.
So this was back in the 1800s. So we were one of the very first states to grow hemp.
Okay.
And then it kind of evolved into cannabis later on, but we were mostly growing hemp for the textile because that's what it was good for.
I know the weather changes so much. I mean, even the other day it was 70 something degrees and now it's 50 something.
Yeah.
But I would assume with Virginia being so big in tobacco that it would have actually been a good environment for growing
No, it's
cannabis.
good for like fruits, like wine, tobacco, because of all the water that comes here. Cannabis that's not what you want.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it leads into a difficult task of growing, if growing cannabis outside or good smokable hemp.
Okay.
So yeah, we grow inside. We have 5,000 square foot facility and we use every inch of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you said you started out with this being kind of filling a personal gap for you.
Yeah.
So it helped you transition, for some medical purposes. I had the same thing. So I kind of struggled because, it was frowned upon until just recently, right? Maybe a year or 2 years ago. And so, especially with employment, it's hard to maintain employment, but you need your medicine. So a few years ago, I had a medicinal card, which allowed me to use this as medicine. I did the same thing, weaned myself off of some prescription, drugs and things like that. But I still have some of those that I have to maintain using. But I definitely relate to the reason why you had to get into that and get that started. But I appreciate you taking the leap.
Yeah.
And pioneering it for not only myself, but, Virginians. And really Virginia's the first state in the South. Yeah. So, and you're one of the first in Virginia. So you're a true pioneer.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to do. I definitely wanted to lead the industry because I felt so passionate in how it changed my life. Yeah. And I wanted to tell my story. Very early on in entrepreneurship, a friend of mine, he's a multimillionaire. And so I asked him, I said, what led you to success? What's the key thing that led you to success? He's like, I told my story. That was it. And I was like, man, that hit me pretty deep. Yeah. I was like, well, how do I tell my story? Yeah. Like, I don't have a story to tell. But then I had to kind of figure that out. What was my story? And going through these trials and tribulations in life, being a veteran. So, that's where it's kind of leading me to telling my story as far as being a veteran, and how cannabis and hemp have, pretty much saved my life. And it's a holistic healing. We don't need all these pharmaceuticals that the VA or the doctors try to prescribe us. There's a whole set of medicines that are healthy out there for us and organic. And we're just kind of tapping the industry, which is good and bad for us. Our kids and our grandkids will definitely benefit of what's happening now because there's not enough research out there. We're just kind of like barely tapping the top about cannabis. Okay. And now that it's hopefully soon it'll be federally legal, all this money will come in so they can start doing these researches. Yeah.
Because it has been illegal for even to research cannabis, right? Yeah. I know a few universities may get a pass just so they can do some mild, research, but it really hasn't been dug into.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I'm very passionate about this industry and, I'm really giving it all. Especially trying to be a industry leader in this field, and just kind of showing people what I've gone through already. I love to teach, so I'm always here to help others, especially wanting to get into the industry, whether if it's growing or learning about the product. Yeah. And I think the education is the real big part of educating others about cannabis and hemp and it's how it's had this bad stigma.
Yeah.
And even marijuana back in the 1920s was a negative term for Hispanics, and having this social equity is a huge part for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, for Blacks and Hispanics, because it was this negative thing, and that's how they made it all illegal. It was centered around us, and a lot of us are being arrested for this plant.
Yeah.
There's people that have done years and years and years for this plant, which is really crazy and just mind-boggling. And so now that they're kind of opening up, like, I want to normalize it. I want it to be okay. Like, if you're drinking a beer, you can smoke a joint. Like, what's the difference?
Yeah, right.
You know what I'm saying? Alcohol is, more dangerous than cannabis, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you have all these other problems, and I've dealt with alcohol, especially being in the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was a thing.
A common thing.
A common thing, every weekend we binge drink, right?
Yeah.
It was a common thing. And so, now that I'm older, like, I can't do any of that stuff, especially drinking and driving, that's even way crazier. So, I really want to put my foot forward in being an industry leader in this industry, and also trying to normalize it and educating the people, because there's still this bad stigma about cannabis. Like, oh, you smoke cannabis? That's bad.
Yeah.
Why is it bad?
Why? Yeah.
Tell me why you think it's bad.
Because
that's
what they've been sold.
Yeah, that's what they told us. Yeah. Well, who? Them. What did they? Yeah. So and coming on these talk shows, and especially sitting here with you, having a platform to be able to tell my story and talk about, like, where Virginia is going, and also educating others about cannabis. So I really appreciate coming on here.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned that you had a mentor, whether he was a close friend or not, but somebody that helped guide you a little bit.
Yeah.
Was he the only mentor that you had? I'm quite sure you had several growing up, right?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that you talk about it. So I really didn't have a lot of mentors, going through, my life. And, of course, I had my parents, and my grandfather. Those were all, like, personal mentors. As far as business mentors, it was all through trials and tribulations, really. I could reach out to a couple people and ask for advice, but it was just basically just me bulldozing and just kind of figuring it out.
Yeah. What gave you, like, the gumshoe or the courage to just go for it and figure it out?
I had nothing to lose.
Man. All right. Okay.
Really, like I've already been down in the depths,
Yeah.
I wanted to take my life. You can't get any lower than that,
Absolutely.
So, and fortunately I haven't been to jail or, haven't done time, so, for me, that was, to me, my lowest. Like, I've lost everything. Like, I've had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing I had was just a roof over my head, and, no furniture, no nothing, slept on the floor, had my kids sleep on an air mattress. So I've literally, like, had nothing, in my life. So I'm like, what do I have to lose?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have nothing. So that's kind of where, like, it's helped me make those jumps and having that courage to go forward, in any type of business venture. I'm like, what's the worst that's going to happen?
That's incredible, man. It's almost like a superpower, because people sometimes you get to a point where you have so much and you almost become bound to either a job or whatever it is. You can't live your life and pursue your dreams because you're stuck thinking, what's going to happen if I lose this?
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't get another job,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But without having anything, man, I never even really looked at that perspective.
Yeah, and I've had the 9-to-5s, and I've worked with, plenty of other companies before becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And, it was, you have so much time and people don't think they have enough time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when they add something else, they're like, oh, I still don't have enough time. And they add something else and then, oh, I don't have, but you have all this time to pursue anything that you really want to do. And, of course, you can work your 9-to-5. After your 9-to-5, you work your side hustle, educate yourself, and then you get your little bit of sleep, do it all over again, until you start building yourself up into making that leap. But, that's what I had to do, try to kind of figure out what I wanted to do in life, working these other companies. I wasn't born to be an entrepreneur. It's not like I was a kid and said, I want to be an entrepreneur when I grow up.
Yeah.
I just fell into it, because I lost everything. I was like, I have nothing else to lose. Like, let me start. Let me see what happens.
Okay.
So, I've had plenty of businesses throughout my life, A lot of them have failed.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were very successful. Some of them I sold. So yeah, I've kind of been through all of it through these entrepreneur life.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is a life that I've lived. You know, it wasn't a trend. It wasn't that I wanted to be cool saying that I owned a business. Like, this was my life. This had to support me and my kids. So, you know, it was a lifestyle that I live and I still continue to live.
Yeah. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the episode. I hate to interrupt, but I had to tell you about a community that I'm a part of. It's called the Morning Meetup. It's where hundreds of entrepreneurs gather every single morning. Look, we share ideas, we motivate each other, we share our successes. It's the perfect environment for you to not only grow as an individual, but as an entrepreneur. It's hosted by my mentor, David Shands. It's every day, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. It's no better way to start your day. Look, we've got a book club. Imagine hundreds of entrepreneurs reading the exact same book on the exact same chapter. You get to discuss that book and share your thoughts. It's very motivating. It empowers you, and you're ready to start your day. You get all of that for only $1. After that, it goes to $79 a month. I have no doubts that you're going to want to stay and be a part of this community. Look, I'm there every single morning, 8 a.m. The only thing we're missing is you. The link is in the description. Go ahead, click the link, try it out, join the community. Look forward to seeing you in the morning. The businesses that I know of, like Signscapes and Old Manchester, are very successful businesses. So somebody who's looking from the outside in, they say, man, this guy's got it all together. He's always been successful. But you mentioned that you've had businesses that have actually failed.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your first business was?
Yeah. So I started a food delivery service. This is before Uber Eats and
DoorDash.
DoorDash. Yep. Before then, it was my first business. It was called The Delivery Doctor. And after I think about the name, I'm like, well, it sounds like a doctor who goes in and helps, deliver kids. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I came up with the name because, me being a medic in the military, and, everybody called you Doc. And so, I delivered food from restaurants that didn't deliver. And it was a concept that was really foreign to a lot of people at that time. It was mostly the Tri-Cities like Fort Lee, Chester, that little area. And I would just go to the restaurants like TGI Fridays, who else did I have? Outback, Red Lobster, and I would go in there and I said, look, I'll deliver your food for free. Just tell the people about me. And they're like, what? They're like, you won't charge us? I'm like, no, I charge the customers. Uh-huh. And they're like, well, how much do you charge? I said, well, if it's in a certain radius, anywhere from $5 to $10.
Okay.
And they're like, okay. So, they started putting it on their menus. And then when customers call in for the order, they're like, well, we can deliver it for you too. Yeah. And they would just give my number. And it went really well. It went better than I expected. But me being an early entrepreneur, I didn't know how to manage all that. And it became so much that it was too much for me to handle.
Okay.
I was getting calls at all certain times of the night, during the day. Like, I didn't really know how to manage all that.
Did it grow outside of you, or was it a one-man show? Or?
No, I hired a couple other people. Mm-hmm. At about, towards the end, I had about 3 to 4 people working for me. Yeah. But then even then, I just didn't know how to manage any of that.
Okay.
That's when gas prices jumped up, and it was just becoming too much. I wasn't making enough money for me to deliver, and I felt bad charging more than that, and that's where you kind of get your feelings mixed into business, and so I just kind of closed it down, and I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. That was my first business, and it taught me a lot. It taught me how to lose. Okay. It definitely taught me how to deal with customer service and having enough courage to go into some of these businesses and tell about my business and forming connections. It just showed me that there's so much to learn inside the entrepreneurial world. Like, I thought I had it figured out, like opening my first business. I was like, yeah, I know everything. This will work, this and this. And I'm like, damn, none of this worked. Yeah. All my business plan was out the door, so, it helped me go through those trials and tribulations. Yeah. So yeah, that was my very first business.
But you knew still you had the drive in you for entrepreneurship like that. Even though you had a setback, it wasn't going to be the end all. You wasn't going to give up.
No. Yeah, I knew I wanted to make the next business move, and I didn't know what that was. I just had to search to figure out what that next business move was going to be. Until then, I kept odd jobs, just kept moving. But in that time, I was just educating myself and kind of seeing what's the hot new business coming up and reading these entrepreneur magazines.
Okay.
I was reading those all the time. They would come out and just try to figure out, okay, what's the next thing for me? So that's kind of where it kind of led me into opening a business and then opening another business and just kind of opening these multiple businesses and just trying them all out and figure what worked. Was it the best strategy? Probably not, as far as a businessman, but it was at least trying and seeing what worked. A lot of people kind of get tunnel vision and just stay in one thing. And then that would be it. But,
or they never start because they're trying to get to perfection. You can't get to a level of perfection. You just got to learn as you go. And just jump out
So
there.
for me, it was just kind of doing those, having those different types of ventures and just trying them all out and seeing what worked for me.
Yeah. Was the military anything that played a part in you being an entrepreneur? As far as, in the military, you've got things like being away from your family, right? Yeah. So then you transition that to entrepreneurship, and it's like, I don't mind working a few long hours. Right. At least I'm not gone. Yeah. Things like that. Any of that play a part for you?
I think, of course, the military, I think they make excellent entrepreneurs. One is being able to handle tasks under pressure. That's a big part of entrepreneurship. Is dealing with pressure and how to deal with it. We deal with it by compartmentalizing it. And just kind of saying, oh, that happened. Okay, whatever. We'll just put it here. Just keep going. Yeah. Right. So dealing with pressure. They also help us form as good leaders. How to be able to talk to somebody, how to have that self-confidence. And sometimes us as military, we kind of lose that when we kind of get out of the military because we're kind of lost because we don't have no direction. Yeah. And, just trying to figure out what that direction is. But the military helped me form that. I knew I had it in me. I just had to bring it back out and try to figure out what that form was for me that worked for me. And then also, your policies and procedures, we call them SOPs or whatever we had as far as the military, you have all these standards that you had to keep up with and being organized, that helped me. Not all the military are organized, but for me, it helped me being organized. Yeah.
You can take the good from it, even though everything may not have worked perfectly, but you can pick that and say, hey, I'm going to use this to help improve my business.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely, the military kind of shows you there is no such thing as work-life balance, right? Yeah. Because, you're gone a lot of times, you're on the field a lot of times, and, you get little time with your family. Me having to go be with a rapid deployment unit for my first 4 years, I was never home. I was always in the field or I was gone somewhere, just kind of being away from family. So, transitioning that into entrepreneurship, that you're, like you said, you're going to have those long nights, you're going to have to work weekends, that's what you have to do. Yeah. But you're used to it because that's your job. Right. So there's a lot of things that I took away from the military that helped me transition to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's good. And so you had a business or several that may have, went through some ups and downs. Mm-hmm. And then at what point did you get to what you would call a successful business?
I'd probably say it wasn't until for me, the success was not being able to work for my business. So every entrepreneur, when they first start off, they're working for their business. They're an employee of their business, right? Yeah. Once you transition to that, to me, I think you're still a entrepreneur. To me, I think you're still a entrepreneur. You're still trying to make that leap. And once you make that leap into a true entrepreneur, in my definition, is where you no longer work for your business, but your business works for you. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So for me, I have employees who can run my business at Signscapes. I can step away for a month. They'll call me for some problems here and there, but it's not like I have to be there every single day. If I wanted to sell my business, I could sell my business, and it doesn't have to be tied to me. Yeah. So making that transition was my success. So, I think that was probably about maybe 5-6 years ago, when I had a smaller sign company and I ended up buying Signscapes. That was kind of my goal, was to not work for my business anymore, because to me it sucked.
Yeah.
Like, I was still working all the time.
Oh.
And if I didn't work, I wasn't making money, and I didn't like that concept. I was like, how are these other people being able to take these vacations and still make money? They sleep and still make money, and I wasn't doing that. Like, I had to physically work every single day in order for me to make money, and that concept was like, I needed to make that next leap. So that was really important for me. And buying Signscapes was, I saw my ticket to be where I didn't have to do that anymore.
Yeah. But that kind of, in my mind, goes back to somewhat of the military.
Yeah.
Like you were mentioning the SOPs and policies.
Yeah.
Once you got a good system in place, and the way the military is structured is, if somebody in a higher chain of command has to leave for whatever reason, then the next person should be able to step up and fulfill that role. So it's kind of the same model.
Yeah.
And I know that's not a lot of people's definition of success, but I'm going to adopt that because you're really, like you said, not at the level of success or entrepreneurship until it's not tied to solely you, until you're affecting, other people's lives and they can step in and help you run it and grow.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge part as far as, for me, as my definition of success. Everybody has a different definition of success. It could be money. It could be, a house. It could be family. It could be working a 9 to 5, making 30,000, but they come home and they're happy, but they get to
that work-life balance.
Their work-life balance. That's their happiness. That's their success. Everybody has their different success. So my success may not be your success, or vice versa. So, it's just figuring out what your success is and just kind of going for that goal. And I think I've kind of done a good job of figuring out what my goals are every single year and accomplishing those, and taking it to the next level every year.
Yeah. How do you set those goals? Are you the type that does a New Year's resolution, or you say, okay, I'm not worried about January, but I just know, sometime within this year, still a calendar year, right? I'm going to set these goals to hit a certain target next year.
Yeah, for me, it's pretty much a calendar year.
Okay.
So, I think one of my goals last year was I wanted to profit $250,000 out of Signscapes.
Mm-hmm.
So at the beginning of the year, I wrote that on my marker board right beside my desk, and every day I would look at it. I'm like, okay, I'm kind of idle. What do I need to get there?
Okay.
Do I need to make more sales calls? Do I need to be out there more? Do I need to talk to the crew a little bit more to amp it up? So that was kind of one of my goals. One of the life goals that I set maybe about probably 7-8 years ago. I always wanted to do better than I did last year. So it doesn't matter if it's financially, mentally, physically, but it was something I had to do. And at the end of the year, I wanted to look back and say, did I do better than last year? Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of a thing that I started, 7 years ago. And every year it's worked for me. And, I try to do as much as possible, whether if it's for the community, whether if it's for myself, for my family. Yeah. I try to accomplish some sort of goals. But yeah, I stay mentally on goals, whether I usually keep a monthly goal of something I want to do.
That's awesome.
Whether if it's for myself, for my business, something.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I have a year-end goal where I want to accomplish.
Yeah, continue progressing, and you got to have a target, or you're just going to be blindly just shooting in the dark, and who knows what you're going to get.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your family makeup like?
So
I mean, kids, wife.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So
you're like, I got a cousin, a grandmother. No, I'm just talking about immediate family.
So I have 2 kids, son and daughter. My son is 12. My daughter is 15.
Okay.
And Addison and Avery, and I do have a girlfriend. We've been together for almost a little over 6 years.
Okay.
And then I have 2 dogs, and we have some skinny pigs and some guinea pigs and some hedgehogs. So we have a little farm at our house. But that's kind of our family makeup. I spend a lot of time with my kids. I'm very dedicated into being a great father. Very early on, I didn't have any father figure. And my stepdad came into my life till about 12. Well, it was about 10 that he came into my life, and he was a great role model into my life. Educated, he worked for the government, and but very early on, I didn't really have much of a father figure. Yeah. So it was really important for me to be there for my kids no matter what. So yeah, that's kind of my top priority no matter what.
Yeah. I kind of gathered that family was important to you. That's why I asked that, because you mentioned a couple times work-life balance. Yeah. And typically, unless you have something to come home to that's really not important to you, you might turn into a workaholic or something like that. Yeah. Are your kids involved in your business? Do they?
All of
them. Yeah.
Every single business I've had, they've always been involved. And, I educate them what I do and what's going on. And, just recently, like, my kids really gotten into the hemp industry and learning about it. Mm-hmm. And my daughter will tell you what hemp is and tell you what the terpenes does. And, when it started, like, she's just very smart and she absorbs everything. So I want to make sure that my kids are educated about it too. Because like I said, cannabis has this bad stigma. Yeah. And me wanting to be an industry leader, like, I'm going to be putting myself out there. Mm-hmm. So when I put myself out there, I don't want a bad stigma to be attached to me. I want my kids to already be educated. So no, that's not what my dad does. This is what he does. Yeah. And also, I want them to educate other people as well, other kids. When I roll up in my Old Manchester vehicle and I got like hemp leaves on the side of it, I don't want people to think, oh, he's got a weed vehicle and stuff like that. So it's very important that for me to involve, my family in anything I do. And it also opens up their world as well.
Absolutely.
Educates them about entrepreneurship, whether if my kids want to be an entrepreneur or not. I don't really push that on them. But I definitely educate them on everything I do. I like them to be involved.
Yeah, at least their eyes are open and they know there's a possibility. Like you said, when you were younger, you didn't even know entrepreneurship was on the checklist, right? Something you could achieve. Yeah. But they're seeing that at, like you said, 12 and 15. So. Right. Or maybe even younger, really, if you've had other businesses. Yeah. So they're growing up in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And they've seen my struggles, and I remind them, to be humble. Like, we don't ever have to want for anything now. But, I remind them of our struggles. We had to sleep on an air mattress. Like, they slept on an air mattress. I slept on the floor. Yeah. I'm like, do y'all guys remember that? And they're like, yeah. Well, you got to remember that because you can't forget where you came from, the struggles that I had to go through and what I had to do to get us to here. So it's very, like I said, my kids are very important to me. Yeah.
Well, the businesses are going great. Your family's going great. Do you have any idea of? Well, you're a goal setter, so I know you got some idea. Yeah. But where do you see yourself in the next couple of years?
Next couple of years, we definitely want to expand into getting the cannabis license, my exit strat. Well, I don't really want to discuss my exit strategy on here, but definitely, I kind of foresee myself as an industry leader here in Virginia, especially in the cannabis industry. I'm like I said, I'm really passionate about that, and hopefully we'll have a couple locations and grow facilities, as far as that industry. As far as Sciencescapes, we still keep plugging away. I love that industry. We do very well. I'm happy where we're at. I'm happy where we're just kind of in that plateau. My employees are happy. We do very well. It's just kind of staying that balance. I would like to retire here in the next 5 years. Sure. So that's kind of my goal. I started that goal 2 years ago. So that's kind of the goal is to.
Wait, you started it 2 years ago, so you got 3 years left to retire, or 5 years from now?
5 years.
So
it
was a 7 year, more like. Okay, all right. I just want to see how much time I had.
So I'll be 41 on the 24th. So I wanted to at least by 46 to kind of just say, okay.
That's a good goal.
I'm done, trying to have all the stuff on my plate. I just kind of want to step back and let everything run on its own.
Yeah. So I want to tell you personally, I've worked with Sciencescapes, several times in the past, and they're always professional, outstanding work, great quality. I've even had them do some stuff for me, some projects that didn't quite come out right, that I was willing to just be like, well, it's not great, but okay. Right. They on their own was like, no, this isn't the standard, and they fixed it. Yeah. So awesome group, awesome company.
Thank you.
And I wish you the best.
No, yeah. I appreciate the compliments. We work very hard to being the best of the best and offering great customer service and quality stuff. And I kind of lead that into anything I do. That's very important to make my customers happy, no matter what it is. Sometimes the customers are not right, but I help educate them and guide them into what is good quality. And I appreciate this opportunity coming on here and talking with you, giving a platform for us to discuss what's going on in the industry, and just kind of educating a little bit about what I do. But yeah, I'm here to help anybody. So they can find my companies on social media. So Sciencescapes has Facebook, Instagram, also richmondsciencescapes.com. And then Old Manchester Hemp is oldmanchesterhemp.co. And then you can find us on Instagram and Facebook. And then for myself, you can contact either one of those companies and, get a hold of me from there. But yeah, I'm willing to help anybody who's interested in jumping into one, either being an entrepreneur, or either two, wanting to get into the industry, whether if it's science, physical, branding, or either the cannabis industry.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll definitely make sure I put all of the contact information for both companies, in the descriptions and things like that. And I hope as many people as possible come and support your business, because both of them are phenomenal. And I love what you're doing also with pioneering and setting the standard for the industry, because it's helped me myself. It's also helped other family members. So I know firsthand, what it can do for people. And I appreciate you stepping out and doing it.
Yeah, thank you.
And I'm quite sure it's not all fun and games. I'm sure you get some slack from certain people and, whatever. So I appreciate you, taking the brunt of that for us.
Yeah. It can get difficult, but this is the path that I'm choosing, and I understand that it may be tough, and it's all not daisies and dandelions, So, and I've already been through it, and like I said, like how worse can it get? I've already been there, so this is kind of a great opportunity for myself, and I really enjoy it. I love what I do.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important part. It helps you go through the good and bads, is just loving what you do.
Awesome. Well, there's something I like to do. It's the Success Leaves Clues podcast. So I like to point out a few clues that I noticed that can help either myself or viewers or anybody get to success. And a couple of things that I noticed is, one, your superpower, which is not being afraid, to go back to nothing. And I think that's important for a lot of people who are in a current situation where they don't have a lot of resources.
Right.
And they feel like that's a negative, and they feel like they can't move forward because they don't have either the finances or the support team.
Right. And,
somebody like yourself had neither and was still able to push forward and be successful. You found yourself a mentor, whether it was a friend, whether it was a family member, anything, but you found a mentor who was doing better than you, and you were able to follow and take some advice and some notes from them. And then the other thing I kind of noticed is that you're a goal setter. So you don't just live, haphazardly. You set goals, and then you want to continue to improve and update yourself, whether it's personal, spiritually, or whatever. And so I think that's, some good things to take away that, can help other people just, emulate that and be successful as well.
Right. Yeah. I think those are great clues. Sometimes ourselves, we don't see that. As being entrepreneurs, we just know how to do it. We just keep going forward.
You're in the day
to day, exactly, and you don't really see that. And sometimes we got to take a step back and just kind of analyze everything we got around us, and just kind of see how good we have it.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. So thank you again. And I just want to remind everybody, if you can dream it, you can achieve it. Until next time on Success Leaves Clues podcast.